Hello and welcome back to Punctual Politics. I'm Dawson Iasillo, Senior Opinion Editor.
And I'm opinion writer Jackson Hatcher.
And I'm Senior News Editor Natalie Hill. Jumping straight into this topic, it's safe to say we've officially entered primary season. For Nebraskans, the primary election will be on May 12th, and there is a lot to pay attention to here. First of all, Nebraskans will be electing their senator and all 3 representatives at the federal level. They will also be electing their governor and 25 out of 49 Nebraska legislators. The major race here for most Nebraskans is governor, as Jim Pillen will be seeking a second term. In the primaries, he has 5 Republican challengers ever since Charles Herbster dropped out of the race. Herbster was considered Pillen's most viable competitor, so it's looking likely currently that he will secure the Republican vote. My first question to you two is, do you think enough people pay attention to primaries in Nebraska?
Nope. No, they aren't.
No, I mean, Nebraska is a very red state, and so as long as Pillen's in the race, no one's gonna really care.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people tend to, ignore, safe races. But I think that's a bad idea because even if, it's obvious that, I mean, especially for the primaries, because even if it's obvious that, Democrats are going to win this state or Republicans are going to win the governor here, I think the inter-party politics is still important to pay attention to. So, this race for governor could tell you, a little indication of, what direction the Republican Party wants to move post-Trump. And I think you could see that too, in what's an example? Like the California governor's race. A Democrat's going to win, but it's kind of important to look at because you might have an indication of where the Democratic Party wants to go.
Yeah. I think also just for Nebraska, politicians here, their primary running topic is going to be agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
That's always going to be a huge topic, and how the candidate wants to handle agriculture, I think farmers and ranchers really need to be paying attention to that, no matter if they're Republican or Democrat. And like you said, which Republican is it going to be?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be Pillen, but
yes.
I mean, how big of a fight it is also important.
Yeah, for sure.
As you look at candidates running for state office, are there any topics you'd like them to really push or qualities you'd like them to exhibit?
Well, topics, I mean, you mentioned agriculture, obviously, but I think international trade is an important one. We're a state that's been hit pretty hard by tariffs.
I think just going into that, also just affordability. I mean, Nebraska is a majority middle-class state. The housing crisis and the affordability of everything is through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be anywhere in this country, if you're not running on affordability, I think you're a moron.
You're just wrong.
You're just bad at politics if you're not doing that. I mean, even Donald Trump knows that that's what he needs to start talking about. I don't think he's that good at it, but
I mean, any politician who's not going to at least claim that they're going to fight for the middle class is just stupid right now.
I'll tell you what I don't want to see from any candidates. I don't want to hear anything about transgender people. I don't want to hear anything about DEI, critical race theory, any of that crap that doesn't actually affect anyone, right? And, that's maybe a tall order in a safe Republican seat, but at least across the nation.
Let's worry about issues.
End of sentence. Yeah,
let's worry about issues. Period.
Yeah, not
that end of sentence, end of statement.
So in Nebraska, we have a closed primary, so political parties have to basically opt in to allow nonpartisan voters to vote in their primaries. Do you think independent voters should have more access to participate in party primaries?
I think they should. I mean, we have a fifth of voters in this state are independent, so that's a pretty important block.
But the whole political pawn that independents have played in all of politics is what's the trajectory of politics going to be? And I would argue that independents decide that. Independents are the swinging vote for that.
Yeah, and when you look at primaries, if you can't include independents in your primaries, then I mean, this is like just political theory. In the primaries, your candidate is going to be the one that's like the most acceptable to that party or that party's voters, but that party's voters aren't going to be deciding the election, right? So like whoever ends up being the nominees for like the Republican Party is going to be very like Republican, and they're not probably not going to appeal that much to independents. And then you'll get where they like run to the right to, really energize their base in the primaries, but then they'll run to the center to try and get independents in the general election. And then you'll get to a point where people are like, well, what do you even believe? Because it doesn't seem like you have any like strong convictions. You're just going ebbing and flowing.
I mean, I would go as far to argue that this is kind of like against freedom of speech. They're not able to express their opinion just because of a political party they're affiliated with.
I'll say this. I am a registered Democrat, not because I like the Democratic Party. I really don't, but I really do want to vote in primaries.
I'm the same way.
That's how, I can affect change.
Absolutely.
If we had open primaries where independents could vote in, at least one party election, I would be an independent.
Absolutely. Me too. Me too.
So like it is also like, I don't know. Maybe if we had more open primaries, I think we would see that we have less partisan voters in the state than maybe the numbers would let you believe.
For sure.
Yeah, jumping off of that, how important do you think it is for candidates to appeal to independents?
So important. I mean, the Democrats are going to primarily always vote Democratic. Republicans are always going to primarily vote Republican. It's going to be the independents who not only sway the vote one way or another, but also they're a great like center base for what are the issues that we're really most worried about. That has nothing to do with party or Democrats are saying this or Republicans are saying this, but what are the core issues of the normal middle class independent American?
I might push back on that a little bit in saying that, I think a lot of people think of independents as like the middle block when I think that's just ridiculous. A lot of independents are like farther left than Democrats or farther right than Republicans, right? So like, I think it's important because I think it's important to appeal to independents because it's important to appeal to a wide, range of positions, right? So if you're not appealing to independents, I don't think the issue there is like, oh, well, you're not going to have like the median voter, but you're also pushing a bunch of people to the sidelines that become disengaged and disaffected by politics. Like, again, I would say I'm independent and I hate how politics works, right? Yeah. So, and I think that's because people don't really speak to me. They speak to their base.
Yeah, and I think politicians, not only should they try to appeal to independents, but they should just try to appeal to their constituents. At the end of the day, we shouldn't worry about if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, or other. Yeah. These are just Nebraskans or whatever state they're from we should be.
I'd say that goes double in Nebraska because we have a nonpartisan legislature.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why are you even like running
really
as
point,
like I don't know. Maybe we should have like a nonpartisan governorship.
Yeah.
But
maybe they should put you in charge.
Maybe I should be president.
So, speaking of the president, we know that Trump has endorsed Pillen. How much influence do you think national politics have on state elections like this?
I think it depends, but I think lots. Short answer.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Nebraska is a really red state, and Trump is still pretty popular in Nebraska. So if a popular president to Nebraskans is saying, yeah, this guy's awesome, yeah, that's important to Nebraskans.
I mean, I would say lots, but also
as much as I hate it.
I would also say maybe less than people would expect. So like Trump's endorsement is, very important if you're running as a Republican. I mean, you've seen that in like several other like elections. Like I know this is about Nebraska's primaries, but like if you look at Texas, he didn't endorse any of the candidates for the Republican nomination there. and it's kind of like a really brutal like primary with a lot of infighting. And if Donald Trump just like endorsed one of them, John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, then it probably wouldn't be going to a runoff right now.
Yeah.
But I also think that like, you'd be pretty stupid to think that your average voter doesn't care about like national politics. At least when it comes to like personalities. Like something that struck me in the last election cycle in 2024 was one of Dan Osborne's ads that was like, it was like featuring voters, and it was like, I'm a Republican, I'm voting for Donald Trump and Dan Osborne, right? So like people do understand how much weight that he holds,
for sure.
but like I think when it comes to issues, I don't know. I would say local politics tends to be less caught up in like the big national thing. Like, oh, what are you doing about what's a good example? Like a big national issue would be like, transgender rights, and like I think that matters less in a local election,
Well,
stuff
especially in a place like Nebraska, where the transgender population is next to none.
Yeah, I
so
mean, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Yeah. You mentioned Texas. Last question for you guys on this. Do you think it's worth keeping an eye on other states' primaries? And if so, are there any you've been kind of keeping an eye on?
Yes, it is definitely worth looking at other states' primaries.
I mean, that's looking at primaries is looking at the future and the trajectory of politics. I
yeah,
think.
I mean, this is like a lot of people will think that like, oh, how the next political era will be defined by like the 2028 general election. Nah, it's right now, right? I wrote an article about the read it. I wrote an article about the Tea Party and the No Kings protests, and how a lot of politicians were kind of blindsided by the Tea Party movement, because a lot of the like fight in the Tea Party movement came down to like primaries, like, oh, we're primarying this Republican who's part of the establishment or whatever. And like a lot of people were like, oh, I'm not taking that seriously, whatever, those are just a bunch of crazy guys. But like they defined this era of politics. They were what set the stage for Donald Trump's run in 2016.
Yeah.
And that's defined, the past decade of politics. So like
Primaries are really important.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So like I think when I think of like, oh, what primaries should we be paying attention to? I think it's ones where
swing states for sure.
Well, swing states. So like I would look at North Carolina, I would look at Georgia, but I would think a lot of people again like, dismiss like safe seats.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, I would look at the California governor's race as like the biggest encapsulation of like, oh, where is the
How
Democratic
far left
Party?
are we going?
Yeah, where's the Democratic Party want to go?
Yeah.
Especially since like Gavin Newsom's probably going to be the candidate in 2028.
Right.
We'll see. So like whoever ends up being the governor like nominee for the Democrats in California, that's a pretty big indication.
It's a big indication. Yeah.
Another example would be the Senate Democratic primary in Maine, which is maybe less left-right, but more like up-down. So like you've got Graham Plattner, who's like an oyster farmer, very disconnected from politics, and that's how he's like really framing his campaign.
The Kentucky governor race too, for sure.
I don't even know who's in that.
Well, I just know that Andy Beshear is a top contender for 2028, and he is the current governor, so that could be interesting.
We'll see. I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't think Andy Beshear's got.
Yeah, I think Gavin Newsom's probably got it, but it will be interesting to see.
On the Republican side, I mean, I mentioned the Republican primary in Texas between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn. John Cornyn is like, I mean, I say he's the less pro-Trump candidate, but he's like voted with him like 99% of the time. Trump just has a big like, he wants absolute loyalty, and Ken Paxton is absolutely loyal.
Right.
So I think that's why that's a big fight. But I think one that a lot of people aren't paying attention to that they should is the Georgia Senate Republican primary. And the people running in that, you have John Raffensperger, who, if you don't remember is like the election official who
Yeah.
Donald Trump called and is like, I want 11,000 votes.
Yep.
Donald Trump hates this guy.
Yeah.
So if he does well, that might be an indication that the Republican primary or the Republican position might be shifting to like trying to run away from Trump's legacy. But if it's one of the more pro-Trump candidates, it might be,
I think in a
trying
lot
to
of
double down
primaries,
on
we're
it.
going to be seeing a lot of people kind of breaking away from Trump. I think we're starting to see it now. I think even like the New York mayor race was a big indication of how far left are we going. And, but yeah, I think that we're going to see a lot of people breaking away from Trump in the primaries.
I mean, I think the primaries are mostly just defining the lanes that people will be running for in, in the future. So like the Republican primaries this election cycle are defining, I think there's pretty clearly two lanes. The less Trumpy candidate that wants to run away from Trump's legacy and try and like, go back to maybe like a more Mitt Romney type guy, or ones that will double down on Trump's legacy. And that might have some pretty big implications on who ends up being the Republican nominee for president in 2028. And then you see like the Democratic primary, like Maine. That's like, well, are you going to be the anti-establishment candidate like Graham Plattner, who's like running on a very populist, anti-establishment, anti-old guard platform? Or are you going to be the Janet Mills candidate who's kind of like handpicked by Chuck Schumer, right?
Right.
So, if you are interested in how politics is going to evolve over the next 4 years, you should be paying attention to state primaries, even outside of your state.
Thanks, guys. As always, thank you for tuning in to Punctual Politics. Just a reminder that the views expressed in this podcast do not represent the views of the Daily Nebraskan as a whole.
Thanks for tuning in to Punctual Politics. Make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to keep up to date with Punctual Politics, we release new episodes every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
See you next time.
See you next time, yeah.